First, we'll go to San Diego for the sentencing of 17 Hells Angels for a hate crime. In a chilling incident that unfolded on June 6, 2023, in the Ocean Beach neighborhood of San Diego, 3 young black men, aged 19, 20, and 21, found themselves the victims of an unprovoked and brutal attack by members of the Hells Angels motorcycle gang.
They were chased and attacked by several Hells Angels and Hells Angels supporters. It's possible that the attack was triggered because one of them dared to talk to one of the girlfriends of these members.
The victims, strolling together on Newport Avenue, suddenly became the targets of several Hells Angels bikers.
They were repeatedly called racial epithets and told they didn't belong in that neighborhood.
The consequences were nothing short of nightmarish. One of the victims endured a relentless beating, rendering him unconscious. Another was subjected to a merciless beating and a stabbing, allegedly inflicted by the gang's leader, a man identified as Troy Shoulder, aged 43. Apparently, the man who was stabbed in his chest had his sternum cracked, and the doctors could see his lungs. The third victim, in a desperate bid for survival, managed to flee and evade injury. Months of thorough investigations by both the San Diego Police Department and the District Attorney's Office culminated in the grand jury indictment of 17 individuals connected to the Hells Angels motorcycle gang. These indictments encompass charges of assault likely to cause great bodily injury, with several of them carrying additional hate crime charges and attempted murder charges. For all, the defendants' charges range from a deliberate assault to being involved after the fact,
including the man accused of carrying out the stabbing, Troy Shoulder. In addition to the hate crime charge, he also faces an attempted murder charge. Prosecutors describe him as one of the longtime leaders of the Hells Angels.
The authorities made it clear that they will not tolerate violence, racism, or any form of hateful and unprovoked attacks in San Diego County. However, it's hate crimes like this that make the unspoken "no blacks allowed" rule unsurprising. In 2000, Sonny Barger said, "If you're a motorcycle rider and you're white, you want to join the Hells Angels. If you're black, you want to join the East Bay Dragons. That's how it is whether anyone likes it or not. We don't have no blacks, and they don't have no whites." The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club has a global presence with an estimated 1.5 million members worldwide. While there aren't a lot of black members, it's important to note that there is no evidence to suggest that black men are not welcome in the club. Many Hells Angels chapters are indeed predominantly white, but it doesn't necessarily imply racism within the organization. One possible reason for the absence of black men in some chapters could be related to affiliations with other organizations. While accusations of racial exclusivity are not baseless, they don't accurately represent the club's overall diversity. It's also possible that black men may choose not to join motorcycle clubs due to feeling a lack of belonging. However, it's important to acknowledge that the Hells Angels MC has a history of discrimination. Though efforts have been made in recent years to increase diversity and reduce racism, there are still instances of discrimination against black members, both in terms of violence and racism from some white gangsters. Also, microaggressions can play a significant role in discouraging black men from joining Hells Angels. These subtle, everyday acts of discrimination can create an unwelcoming and hostile environment that dissuades individuals from pursuing membership. Repeated exposure to derogatory comments, stereotypes, and degrading behavior can erode one's sense of belonging and undermine their desire to join an organization where they might face prejudice. It is essential to address and challenge these microaggressions to promote inclusivity and create a more welcoming space for everyone, regardless of their race or background. While progress has been made in certain chapters, particularly in Europe, where there is a bit more diversity, the Hells Angels remain predominantly comprised of white men. Next, we'll go to Seattle to a case that shows just how far some Hells Angels members take their loyalty. The case begins with Rodney Rollness's conviction for the murder of Michael Santa Walsh, a man known for his iconic white beard and his role as Santa Claus for children with developmental disabilities. What makes this grim tale even more unsettling is the reason behind the murder. Walsh had falsely claimed to be a member of the Hells Angels. In the dark underworld of outlaw motorcycle clubs, such a transgression was met with ruthless consequences. Rollness, along with an accomplice, committed this heinous act to earn their filthy few patch, a macabre symbol signifying their readiness to kill on behalf of the club. The charges that followed were as grave as the crimes themselves. Rollness faced charges of murder, extortion, and robbery. The prosecution painted a disturbing picture of Rollness, highlighting his history of violence and aggression. In 2001, with the club's approval, he brutally assaulted a 60-year-old man, stealing his Hells Angels memorabilia. During that same summer, he shot and killed Michael Walsh, leaving his lifeless body by the side of the road. In Rolness's view, wearing the patch was an honor, and anyone who dared to falsely claim they were a Hell's Angel deserved to be punished, federal prosecutors noted. Following a lengthy 10-week racketeering trial, Rolness, along with 2 other motorcycle club members, faced an array of charges, including murder, conspiracy, and membership in a racketeering-influenced and corrupt organization, RICO. It was a demonstration of the government's resolve to combat violent organizations, even adapting the RICO statute, originally designed for crime syndicates like the Mafia. In the end, the verdict was clear: life in prison. Rodney Rolness's actions show us that one of the worst things you can do is pretend to be a Hell's Angel. For real, do not do it. The Hell's Angels are known for their tight-knit brotherhood and unwavering loyalty to one another. Members of this elite motorcycle club forge deep bonds built on trust, respect, and a shared commitment to their values. It's not just a casual association, it's a way of life. When someone falsely claims to be a member of the Hell's Angels, it undermines the integrity of the club and its genuine members. This kind of deception can have profound consequences, an insult to the core values that the club holds dear. And sometimes some members can take this disrespect to the absolute extreme. As shocking as it may be, this extreme of Rodney Rolness's reaction stems from the profound loyalty and dedication that Hell's Angels demonstrate towards their brotherhood. That's why you are a member for life. Yes, even if you retire, you are technically a member, unless you leave entirely, which is different. Just make sure you're out good.
Members can leave the gang of their own free will in good standing. Like, in essence, they can retire. And when they retire, they're considered out good. They still have to relinquish all their Hell's Angels property.
However, there are situations where members are forced to leave the club. Some have had to disassociate themselves because of legal problems, while others have been expelled for breaking the club's code. For those who have been kicked out, some feel that it's not enough of a punishment and have even had their Hell's Angels tattoos burned off, as reported by the Duluth News-Tribune. Some members choose to resign and are required to return anything associated with the Hell's Angels name or symbol. George Christie's retirement is one famous example. He left on what he thought were good terms with the club, but later found out that he was considered out bad and cut off from contact with his former brothers.
But if you're out bad, they will come and take back their cut, their vest. They will take back your motorcycle. That's their property in their eyes. And they'll take back that tattoo.
First, we'll go to the sentencing of Brian Wendt, a powerful and influential member of the Hell's Angels. In 2017, the Department of Justice made a major move, indicting members of the Hell's Angels, including Brian Wendt, for their alleged involvement in a vast conspiracy. These charges encompass serious crimes, including murder, drug dealing, assault, robbery, extortion, illegal firearms possession, and obstruction of justice. Apart from Brian Wayne Wendt, Jonathan Nelson and Russell Taylor Ott were also implicated. The focus of the investigation and subsequent trial was the killing of Joel Silva, a fellow Hell's Angels member. Nelson, Ott, and Wendt targeted Silva due to perceived trouble within the club. Prosecutors claimed Ott and Nelson orchestrated Silva's murder and collaborated with Wendt to carry it out. The murder occurred in Fresno in 2014, with Wendt ruthlessly shooting Silva in the head at the Fresno chapter's clubhouse. Silva's body was cremated the following day, erasing crucial evidence.
FBI agents have revealed a homicide that happened inside the Hell's Angels clubhouse in Fresno 3.
The entire conspiracy to kill Silva allegedly goes deeper than you think. It was a plan hatched by both Brian Wendt, president of the Fresno charter of the Hell's Angels, Christopher Ranieri, president of the Salem charter, and Jonathan Nelson, president of the Sonoma charter of the Hell's Angels. Thus, it spans from California to Massachusetts, showing just how powerful and influential the Hell's Angels are. For context, the FBI used this to give each one of them a RICO charge and build cases against them for which they all got life sentences. RICO stands for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, a powerful federal law enacted in 1970 to combat organized crime and criminal enterprises. Long story short, Hell's Angels is a very powerful organization. In fact, they're by far the largest biker gang in the world. Established in 1948, the club has grown to encompass an impressive 425 chapters spanning the globe from the US to Berlin to Mexico. Regarding their origin, two different theories circulate. One suggests that the Hell's Hells Angels emerged on March 17, 1948, in Fontana, California, through the merger of several smaller motorcycle clubs. Otto Friedli, a veteran of World War II, is credited with starting the club after a dispute with a rival gang within the Pissed Off Bastards motorcycle club. Another theory associates the founding of the Hells Angels with Dick White, a member of the Redlands Road Runners, who supposedly established the club on November 15, 1951, in San Bernardino. Also, the Hells Angels' iconic Death's Head emblem was designed by Frank Sadalek, a former president of the San Francisco Charter. The Hells Angels have a patch system similar to military medals, with each patch symbolizing a biker's specific actions or beliefs. This patch shows the Hells Angels' unique brotherhood and unspoken code, and that's why their patch must never be destroyed. For Hells Angel members, their patch is everything. It's sacred, it's their identity, and it must never be destroyed. This is because one does not just become a Hells Angel member. Only a few manage to pass the rigorous selection process, as the club takes its time to determine if someone possesses the necessary commitment and loyalty. Those who qualify as acquaintances can seek to become an official friend by securing a sponsor and obtaining unanimous approval in their first chapter vote. However, the Hells Angels demonstrate their extreme caution by subjecting candidates to further stages that can span several years. These include progressing from being hang-around to becoming prospects before finally undergoing the decisive vote for full membership. Thus, it can take a decade to be a full member. Once a candidate has proven themselves trustworthy, the entire chapter convenes for a crucial vote. If the majority agrees without any objections, a new member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is initiated. But even before the vote, it's a long journey that can span several years to transform a prospective member into a full-fledged Hells Angel. As explained in Neil Hall's book, Hell to Pay: Hells Angels versus the $1 Million Rat, a candidate needs to have a personal acquaintance with a full member for at least 5 years to be considered worthy. Next, we'll go to Santa Rosa to explore the criminal life of Raymond Folks. Raymond Michael Folks, a 53-year-old Hells Angels associate and former president of the Sonoma Charter of the Hells Angels, found himself at the center of a highly disturbing case. This unsettling event began when Folks contacted a woman late one evening, instructing her to meet him at the Hells Angels clubhouse located off Fraser Avenue in Santa Rosa, according to Sonoma County Sheriff Sergeant Spencer Crum. The situation took a dark turn as Folks demanded that the woman drive them to a remote area off Bennett Valley Road. There, against her will, he sexually assaulted her while making terrifying threats against her husband. Following the ordeal, Folks drove the woman's car back to the Hells Angels clubhouse, leaving her to cope with the traumatic experience. Incredibly, the victim summoned the courage to report the assault to the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, despite the threats she endured. Her bravery would ultimately set in motion a series of events leading to Folks' arrest. Upon his arrest, Folks was booked into Sonoma County Jail under a bail of $1 million. The charges against him included sexual assault, victim intimidation, stalking, and gang participation. He was also found guilty of assault with a firearm, which was part of a scheme to expel a former Hells Angels member from the group. This former member had been involved in a romantic affair with Folks' common-law wife, which was against the rules of the Hells Angels. During this expulsion process, Folks, along with other Hells Angels members, subjected the victim to multiple violent acts. Folks used a baseball bat to assault the victim, forcibly tattooed the victim's forehead, and even compelled another person, referred to as Nelson, to pistol whip the victim in the face. These actions led to Folks being convicted of witness intimidation. He had sexually assaulted the victim's wife while the victim was undergoing a severe beating at the Hells Angels clubhouse. Long story short, he was inevitably slapped with RICO charges and found guilty of racketeering conspiracy and murder conspiracy, and now faces around 60 years in prison. Richard Folks is how he treats women and views them, almost like they're his property. This is actually in line with the average Hells Angels member who calls their women property. Yeah, you heard right, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Let me provide context and break it down. In the world of the Hells Angels, patches hold a special meaning. One patch that sparks a lot of debate and discussion, particularly among women associated with Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, HAMC members, is the property of patch. First and foremost, the property of patch acts as a signal to other club members in the broader biker community. It communicates that the woman has a protector within the club, an individual who is responsible for her safety and well-being. For many women who wear the patch, it symbolizes commitment and a sense of belonging. They don't see it as a symbol of subjugation, but rather as a source of pride in their man. But still, the perception of the property of patch as being oppressive is still valid. The idea of a woman attaching her entire identity to a man will continue to raise eyebrows, especially from outsiders. Knowing this, it's not surprising that there are no women allowed. Women are not allowed to be members of Hell's Angels. This rule applies to all angels, not just specific chapters. Any women who join the organization as wives or girlfriends should understand the level of dedication required to be part of the Hell's Angels. However, historically, women associated with motorcycle clubs were often referred to as old ladies. This term showed endearment and respect, signifying their status as the primary female partner of a club member. Being an old lady meant sharing in the club's lifestyle, experiencing its ups and downs, and enjoying a place of honor within the club's family structure. But these women were not mere bystanders. They actively participated in rides, events, and even informal club decisions. Here's how an undercover agent, Jay Dobbin, explained the female hierarchy. With regards to women, there's a hierarchy that takes place. There are old ladies who are the wives and girlfriends of members at the top of the chain. You better not get caught trying to mess around with a member's wife or girlfriend, because there's a violent price to pay. Next, we'll go into the life of Morris Boucher, a convicted murderer and all-round menace to society. Morris Boucher's life has been defined by a series of shocking crimes and ruthless deeds, solidifying his status as an infamous figure. He was already serving a life sentence for the gruesome murders of 2 correctional officers in 1997, a crime that sent shockwaves through Canada. During the 1990s, amid a fierce rivalry between the Hells Angels and Rock Machine, Boucher orchestrated the random killings of 2 correctional officers, Pierre Rondeau and Diane Levine. The key word here is random. His motive was to make these crimes so heinous that it would deter police informants from infiltrating the biker world. It was his way of asserting dominance. Boucher faced charges of attempted murder and first-degree murder for these acts. Remarkably, in 1998, a jury found him not guilty, but an appeal court later overturned that acquittal, leading to his rearrest. During this trial, the prosecution received death threats, and a pivotal witness, Stephen Gagne, who had struck a deal with the prosecution, testified that Boucher had given the order for the murders. After 11 days of deliberation, Boucher was convicted of attempted murder and 2 counts of first-degree murder, resulting in 2 life sentences. Throughout his life, Boucher seemed to relish his reputation as a murderer, unapologetically embracing the drama of it all and continuously showing his hate for cops. And that is why you can't join the Hells Angels if you're a cop. The Hells Angels were actually born out of a desire to create a counterculture movement that existed apart from traditional law enforcement and societal norms. They sought to establish a brotherhood of individuals with a rebellious spirit, united by their love for motorcycles and their quest for freedom on the open road. At the core of the Hells Angels' philosophy is the belief that they are outsiders living on the fringes of society. They embrace a lifestyle that is often misunderstood and frowned upon by the mainstream. As such, they have developed a strong aversion to authority figures, particularly those affiliated with law enforcement. For them, the presence of law enforcement members within their ranks would completely undermine the essence of being a Hells Angel. You see, the Hells Angels see themselves as renegades, fiercely independent and self-governing. They value their freedom above all else, striving to create a space where they can live by their own rules and engage in activities that might be seen as contrary to the law. It's almost as if they have built their microcosm where they can exercise autonomy without external interference. Having members with connections to law enforcement would not only compromise their image as a counterculture movement, but it would also risk the infiltration of their inner sanctum by those they perceive as adversaries. The Hells Angels have always been vigilant about protecting their secrecy, guarding against potential informants or undercover agents who could jeopardize their operations. In order to maintain the integrity of their brotherhood and preserve the spirit of defiance, the Hells Angels have taken a firm stance against accepting individuals with any affiliation with law enforcement. It's not just about avoiding legal entanglements, it's a fundamental part of their identity and ideology. They are determined to preserve their unique status as outsiders, rebels on 2 wheels, defying societal norms and embracing a life far removed from the reach of the law. According to Neil Hall's book, Hell to Pay, this perhaps makes it easier for the bikers to engage in certain criminal activities without attracting unwanted attention. The clubhouse strictly prohibits any form of criminal behavior, and members are encouraged not to draw attention to themselves. Maintaining a low profile seems to be a key principle. However, the reasons for this requirement are not solely based on criminal activities. The Hells Angels value loyalty above all else. They prioritize unwavering devotion to their group and cause. Thus, they would never consider accepting someone who has sworn allegiance to any other group, even if it is for upholding the law. Next, we'll go to Germany for the sentencing of Kadir Padir and his cohorts, who showed just how much loyalty they have for their group. On that fateful day, the Wet Cafe Expect became the backdrop for a tragedy. A group of masked figures, 13 in all, embarked on a sinister mission. Among them was Tahir Ozbek, an unwitting victim caught in a convoluted web of violence. Kadir Padir, the leader of the Hells Angels gang, unleashed chaos with a barrage of bullets, snuffing out Tahir's life in an instant. Padir and his cohorts faced grave charges, including joint murder, while Tahir himself was personally accused of incitement to murder. CCTV footage captured the harrowing scene as 13 figures surreptitiously entered through the establishment's rear entrance, their identities masked and concealed. As pandemonium erupted and the assailants seized control of the betting office, one of them brandished a pistol. In a terrifying moment that felt like an eternity, 8 gunshots shattered the air, leaving 6 lives extinguished, including Tahir Ozbek's. Despite the brevity of the incident, the meticulous surveillance footage became vital proof, leading to the swift capture of most of those involved in this heinous act. Among those apprehended was Casa Z, nicknamed the Persian. Faced with the prospect of a life sentence for collective murder, Casa Z made the gut-wrenching decision to cooperate with the police, becoming a crucial witness who shed light on the inner workings of the Hells Angels in the country. Casa Z found himself thrust into the spotlight as the trial's star witness, necessitating intense security measures to safeguard his well-being. However, unyielding, Kadir Padir vehemently denied any involvement in orchestrating Tahir Ozbek's murder, proclaiming no order was given to take his life. However, the court deemed the prosecution's evidence significant, backed by the surveillance footage that left little room for doubt regarding the culprits' identities. Finally, the 8 men associated with the Hells Angels received life sentences, including Kadir Padir, and the 8 others' unwavering stance that they were innocent, despite one of them betraying them, showed just how deep and seriously they take their, in a world where information flows freely, secrecy becomes a rare and sought-after treasure within the Hells Angels. It's a treasure that holds great importance and is safeguarded by a ritual steeped in trust, loyalty, and the protection of the Brotherhood's inner workings. Welcome to the enigmatic world of the Silence Vow. When a member joins the club, they take an oath of silence, an unbreakable vow. This pledge serves as a testament to their dedication to the club's cause and their unwavering commitment to preserving its privacy. The Silence Vow ritual remains shrouded in secrecy, conducted away from prying eyes. What unfolds behind closed doors is whispered and speculated upon, intensifying the mystery. However, one thing we do know is that during this ritual, each member promises never to disclose sensitive information about the club or its members to outsiders. Breaking the Silence Vow is considered a grave offense and carries severe consequences. To put it directly, snitches get stitches. Members understand that the privacy of the Hells Angels is not just a requirement, but an integral part of their commitment. It's a code they live by, a sacred trust they hold dear. It is this unspoken understanding that defines their brotherhood, and it's this secrecy that makes Hells Angels members unable to join another club. The Hells Angels place a strong emphasis on loyalty to their club above everything else. They don't want their members making commitments to serve the law, and they certainly don't want their loyalty divided among different groups. In fact, the rule used to be so stringent that the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club didn't allow their members to join the American Motorcyclist Association, according to Sonny Barger in his autobiography. For the Hells Angels, it's all about territories, and being in other groups just complicates things.
The territory you control influences how much money you can make within that territory.
The Hells Angels prioritize their club's unity and maintain a cautious stance towards affiliations with rival groups. Next, Caius Veiovis and his sick rituals and obsession with Satanism. Now, step into the dark and chilling world of Caius Veiovis, a figure entwined with an unsettling triple murder involving David Glasser, Edward Frampton, and Robert Chadwell. Veiovis faced a barrage of charges, including first-degree murder, kidnapping, and witness intimidation. With horn-like implants on his forehead, green bone tattoos on his fingers, and the number 666 inches etched above his brows, he embodied his self-proclaimed identity as a vampire and Satanist. In 2008, he legally changed his name from Roy Gutfinski Jr. to Caius Veiovis. Caius draws inspiration from a vampire in the Twilight series, while Veiovis alludes to a Roman god's escape from the depths of hell. But Veiovis's macabre appearance was not his first interaction with the law. In 1999, he and his girlfriend Deanne Jones made headlines for a heinous assault on a 16-year-old girl. Drawing her into their motel room, Jones cruelly sliced open the girl's back with a razor blade. They then engaged in a grotesque grotesque display, kissing each other and licking the girl's blood. After hospitalization, the victim required over 30 stitches, and the police were alerted. During the trial, Vejovis unabashedly identified himself as a Satan worshiper and a bloodthirsty vampire, both figuratively and literally. As the years passed, Vejovis found himself entangled in yet another gruesome murder case of David Glasser, who was scheduled to testify against a Hells Angels member in a separate assault case. Despite the vehement protests that he was in, the jury found Vejovis guilty on 3 counts of murder, kidnapping, and witness intimidation. The verdict was delivered, and he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole.
I'll see you all in hell, Louis, remember that. Every one of you, I'll see you in hell.
Well, knowing a Hells Angel has a weird obsession with Hells and Satanism isn't that surprising. I mean, they are allegedly some very weird rituals that Hells Angel members do. Okay, so picture this. A recruit, unaware and unsuspecting, is brought before seasoned members of the gang. Tension hangs heavy in the air, a palpable mix of anticipation and dread. The destiny of the recruit teeters on the edge, and then, in a moment of sheer horror, it happens. A concoction of unimaginable vileness, a vile blend of feces and urine, is poured over the recruit's head. Bound and helpless, the recruit is drenched in this revolting mixture, unable to shield their eyes, mouth, or ears from the assault. But that's not where the ordeal ends. A sickening twist awaits the recruit as they are required to endure the filth that clings to their body, forbidden from washing up or changing their clothes until the initiation evening draws to an end. Yes, dear viewers, you heard right. They also have other rituals that aren't quite as weird. They have a ritual known as the motorcycle blessing that carries immense respect and significance. It represents the sacred bond between a Hells Angel and their trusted mechanical companion. The motorcycle blessing is a private ceremony performed within the club, aimed at bestowing protection and good fortune upon a member's bike. While the specific practices remain confidential, the core concept revolves around showing deep respect for the motorcycle and recognizing its importance in Hells Angel's life. During this ritual, a member's motorcycle is symbolically blessed, often in the presence of fellow members. There is another remarkable ritual known as the Burning Heart ceremony that they perform. Imagine darkness descending as Hells Angels gather around a bonfire. A heart-shaped object is set ablaze, casting an ethereal glow upon their faces. What does this fiery display represent? Well, it embodies the Hells Angels' unwavering commitment to their unique way of life. It's almost like a party. The Burning Heart ritual is deeply symbolic and profound, just like the motorcycle blessing. It encapsulates the essence of brotherhood, friendship, and the unbreakable bond shared among Hells Angels. Thanks for watching. Click on the videos you see on the screen for similar content.